Good morning. My name is Cato Collins, one of the procurement managers for the Aviation Department in the Contracts and Services Division. Hopefully, the previous presentation will assist you in obtaining a contract award for the City of Phoenix. I will be presenting on fulfilling your contract commitments once you are awarded a City of Phoenix aviation contract. So let's get started by going over the agenda. First, I'll talk about the duties of the Contracts and Services Division, some keys to a successful contract, common oversights made by awarded contractors, aviation's definition of what a successful contract is, and then I will take questions. Please write down your questions during the presentation and hold for the Q&A segment. So I work for the Contracts and Services Division. Our division is responsible for the solicitation of invitation for bids, requests for proposals, revenue contracts, request for qualifications, and request for information. In addition to soliciting for contracts, we also act as contract administrators for the awarded contract term. This includes facilitating all changes to the contract, amendments, price changes, extensions, and any material contract changes. And most importantly, ensuring the contractor is fulfilling their contracted commitments. With this being said, we essentially serve internal and external customers in the best interest of the City of Phoenix. Today, my main goal is to share information that will assist all awarded contractors on having a successful contract term with the City of Phoenix. Remember, successfully fulfilling your contract and maintaining good standing with the City of Phoenix Aviation gives your organization the ability to compete for future contracts. So let's go over some keys to contract success. I have broken it down pre-award and post-award. Make no mistake, a successful contract starts prior to the award. Keys to success pre-award. Please thoroughly read and understand the solicitation and its requirements. It is very unlikely we make exceptions to our requirements and scope of work after the contract is executed. When you submit and sign your offer, Aviation expects you to honor your material requirements of the contract. The time for clarification is during the solicitation inquiry period. This is the time for you to ask questions, bring up concerns, and request exceptions. Please be sure to have valid documentation. We take any exception requests serious and discuss with leadership and the end users before moving forward. Ask yourself, is the scope and the terms feasible for your organization? Can you provide the goods and or services within the scope requirements? Please make sure all your calculations before you sign and submit. If you sign and submit, you may not remove your offer after the due date. You are obligated to provide the materials and or services under the terms of the contract if you are awarded. Keys to success post-award. Ensure the city receives an accurate invoice of goods and or services. Here's a hint, refer to the fee schedule. The contract will be set up to mimic the fee schedule's unit of measure. The solicitation document will illustrate how the contract should be invoiced. Example, hourly, monthly, quarterly, annually, etc. Invoice the city correctly. If you send 2 units and 2 units are on back order, you cannot invoice the city for 4 units, as the city uses a 3-way match in order to pay invoices. Improper invoicing will delay payments for the actual goods or services provided. If you make a mistake, ensure the city is compensated immediately. That means a refund or credit. Simply perform your services or supply materials per the scope of work. These requirements cannot be altered without an amendment approved by the end-using division and the aviation assistant director. You provide the goods and services per the contract, and the city will provide the compensation. The contracts and services staff want to ensure you are fairly and timely compensated, especially when you are in compliance of the material requirements of the contract. Let's go over a few common oversights made by contractors. Misunderstanding the scope of work and contract requirements. This is very important, and we'll discuss this in detail. Bonds, letter of credits, very important as well, and the contractor should plan for these costs. Insurance, you are required to hold a certain level of insurance. This requirement is outlined specifically in the insurance and indemnification section of the solicitation document and contract. Maintaining the proper insurance is a material requirement of the contract. Badging, the requirement is very specific and must be paid by the contractor unless listed in the solicitation. So let's get started on the scope of work. The main portion of the contract requirements lie in the scope of work section of the solicitation. I will spend some time on this as it is the main reason for contract challenges, mainly because contractors do not take into consideration all of the requirements. In the next few slides, I will discuss some common oversights that can be detrimental to contract success for an awarded contractor. We consider the scope of work as the instruction manual. When submitting an offer, you agree to all the contract requirements. The scope of work usually lists the how, when, why, and where of the contract. I recommend contractors keep the executed contract handy to ensure they can reference all of the contract requirements. These requirements should be clear and concise. Again, any interpretation discrepancies should have been addressed in the solicitation inquiry period with the procurement officer, not after the contract is executed. Meeting your contract requirements is a baseline for your performance measure and compensation. When the scope of work is followed, the city will ensure the contractor is properly compensated. So we have many opportunities here at the City of Phoenix. With that being said, some of those opportunities are very similar in the scope of work. So please ensure you read the entire solicitation before signing and submitting your offer to ensure you have the right solicitation for your organization. Review all the plans and specifications, as this is essential to accurately submitting an offer. Usually following most pre-offer meetings, a site walk is conducted, but I still recommend that you familiarize yourself with the site if possible, where the service and/or materials will be conducted. Being unfamiliar with this site could potentially lead to additional cost for your organization. If the solicitation requirements are not clear and concise, seek clarification during the inquiry period in writing from the procurement officer. The time to discuss is before you submit an offer, not during the awarded contract term. As price is an evaluation criteria in most solicitations, it may seem like a good idea to underestimate to submit the lowest cost. This would be a huge mistake. The contract pricing is not negotiable after award, and depending on the solicitation, the price could be firm and fixed for a period of time. We want to ensure you are fairly compensated, but will not make material changes to the contract due to financial oversight. So it's unfortunate, but the loss of money sometimes motivates us to keep our obligations. This also includes contract obligations. Keep in mind that these are extra expenses when competing for certain contracts. For example, a bid bond guarantees the low bidder will supply the material and/or services. It essentially ensures the offerer is serious about providing the material and/or service. A performance bond ensures the awarded contractor will provide material and/or services per the scope of work, or we may cash that guarantee in. Liquidated damages is also another form the city uses to ensure contract obligations are met. Payment bonds ensure you pay your subcontractors. This is mostly used for construction solicitations, but should also be considered. Maintenance bonds act as a warranty for service or materials you provide. Please take these costs into consideration when reading the solicitation requirements. Contractors should plan for these costs if awarded a contract. Badging and background. Please carefully read all requirements in the solicitation concerning badging and background. Contractors and subcontractors are subject to the security procedures. The contractor is responsible for all costs and in most cases the time and overhead costs associated with it, unless otherwise stated in the solicitation. You should plan for these costs prior to submitting your offer. Please keep in mind, you may have 100 employees and only 50 may pass the background, but you are still responsible to provide the services per the contract. It is your responsibility to ensure you have adequate employees to pass the background conducted at Aviation. Please see the link for current pricing. As pricing is subject to change, the link will provide the most accurate aviation pricing available. Insurance requirements. This is huge. Insurance requirements can be complex when working at the airport. Please see this slide as just a sample snapshot for aviation insurance. You are required to hold a certain level of insurance. This requirement is outlined specifically in the insurance and indemnification section of the contract. Maintaining the proper insurance is a material requirement of every contract. Not projecting for the proper cost of insurance will impact your expenditures for your contract term. Please carefully read the insurance requirements in the solicitation and financially plan accordingly before submitting your offer. So, how can we measure a successful contract? The contract was performed per the scope of work and met all the requirements from execution to expiration. It is very important for you to understand that contracts are measured by performance, not relationships with the end using division. I speak to contractors and they state the aviation end users and points of contact love working with them. While customer service is important, meeting the contract requirements should always be the number one goal of a contractor. We are stewards of city funds and we have a duty to ensure that contractors are meeting their contractual obligations. Serving the city of Phoenix and the customers of Sky Harbor International Airport is our number one goal. In addition, our goal for every contract is win-win. The city of Phoenix gets the materials and/or services at a great value, and the contractor is compensated fairly and timely. Let me share some useful information. We do not have favorite contractors. If you have been awarded a contract through our transparent and competitive process, then we want you to succeed. We are extremely vested in your success. Termination of a contract is always our last resort. We usually provide awarded contractors multiple chances to become compliant through verbal communication, written communication, compliance plans, and finally, formal cure notices. These steps may vary on the importance of the contract, but make no mistake, when you succeed, we succeed. Remember, our procurement team facilitated the evaluation that awarded you the contract. And for that reason alone, we are vested in your success. So we will now move on to the questions and answer phase of the presentation. Admin team, do we have any questions?
No questions at this time.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for their time. Thank you and have a wonderful morning.